all right, the people that will be leading two of the most important investigations, along with Speaker Kevin McCarthy. We have the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, that's Jim Jordan, House Oversight Committee Chairman, that's James Comer. Guys, you've been on a lot.
Yeah.
Jim, you will be investigating, you're both Jims, Jim Jordan, you will be investigating whether the FBI has been politicized and whether the DOJ has been weaponized.
Yeah.
What do you see so far?
Well, it's not a question of whether that's happened. It has, because we've had now dozens of FBI agents come to us taking whistleblower status, talking about how political things have become. And I always step back and look at the big picture. We had a Department of Justice that treated moms and dads as terrorists, used the Patriot Act to go after parents.
Domestic terrorists at school board meetings.
Yeah. You got the FBI that paid Twitter $3 million. Not one, not two, but $3 million to censor conservative viewpoints on their platform. And then, of course, you got what we've seen happen across government in so many other agencies where it's been weaponized against the very people they're supposed to serve. The Department of Homeland Security tried to set up a disinformation governance board, as if some federal agency should tell the American people what they're allowed to say, what they're not allowed to say. That if that's not a direct attack on the First Amendment, I don't know what is. And that's what we're going to look into, because the first step in stopping it is you have to get all the facts on the table for the country to see. Then you go about stopping and making sure it never happens again.
Let me ask you this. Did the FBI in 2016 and 2020, in the presidential elections, did they put their thumb on the scale? I can give you detail. I know you have the detail. But, for example, in 2020, FBI agents in early October, after they were warned by Bruce Ohr not to use the dossier, they flew over to Great Britain, and they met with Christopher Steele. They offered him $1 million to prove that the dossier that Hillary Clinton paid for, the Russian dossier, was true. He couldn't claim his money. But then, by the end of the month, it became the bulk of the FISA application, and it was unverified.
But I would argue
they got away with it.
Yeah,
now we have the recent case. They suppressed all this information about Hunter Biden's laptop. Did they put their thumb on the scale?
And I would argue, as my colleague Matt Gaetz has said in committee, I would argue it was all the other elections as well. So 2016, they spy on Trump's campaign and do what you just described. 2018, it's the Mueller investigation. 2020, they suppressed the Hunter Biden story. And in 2022, 91 days before the midterm election, they raid President Trump's home, which, oh, by the way, is quite a contrast from what we learned yesterday, how they treated President Trump, and what we learned yesterday, where Joe Biden now had classified information at the Biden Center that they knew about before the election, but somehow that didn't get made public.
Will this be like a church committee moment? Will this be that the true reform, that what should be the premier law enforcement agency in the world, the FBI, will we be able to restore it to the greatness it once had?
That's our goal. Rank and file agents are good men and women. We know that by the fact that dozens of them come talk to us about what they see happening and how concerned they are about it. So we know we know that. So that's our goal, our objective. But we're going to do everything we can. We're going to do it in a vigorous way. We're going to do it in an aggressive way. We're going to do it in a way that's consistent with the Constitution. But we're going to do it because that's our job. This is not about, they said today on the floor when we passed the resolution creating this, they said on the floor today, Mr. Nadler was quoted in the paper, and they went after us today on the floor. They said this is political, and we're going to fight it tooth and nail. Why? We're protecting the First Amendment. We're protecting the American people. Why would you fight it, Democrat? I thought you guys embraced the Constitution like we all do. Love the First Amendment and the rights we enjoy. That's what this is about. And we're going to do everything we can to protect American citizens' First Amendment liberties.
They should join with us, not fight it.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with if they had integrity.
You know what? We won't play like them. They want to put somebody on the committee? Put them on the committee.
Right.
We're not pre-setting this thing to be political, because that's not what it should be. We're going to follow the Constitution. Jim will follow wherever the information takes us. But this hasn't happened since 1970. And I think it's gotten so far out of control. You hear from all, not just the American citizens, but the whistleblowers at the FBI are coming to us.
We're going to hear from them?
That's our goal. You know, the whistleblower status, they have to agree, but we hope that some of these individuals, I think they will, because frankly, a number of them have been retaliated against, which is not allowed to happen.
Well,
so I think they will be willing, but we got to see.
actually kind of said that you're not allowed to talk to members of Congress or the Senate. I'm like,
day after we first talked about it on your show, the very next day he issues a memorandum saying, hey, be careful, here's the rules when you're going to talk to Congress. That looks to me like a definite infringement on their liberty, their right to go tell us what's going on in those agencies.
And they believe this, they love this agency. They want this agency to be what it was.
You know, it's funny, a friend of mine retired from the FBI. He said, it is not what I signed up for.
Exactly.
That's how much it changed. Your investigation, you said something that was deep and profound. People think, now the FBI had the Hunter Biden laptop in December 2019. Right. That's why the FBI meeting with big tech once a week prior to the 2020 election, say, oh, you might get disinformation about Hunter. They could have verified Hunter in 5 minutes, either him doing drugs or other things with other people, but I won't go into those details, but they didn't. You're going to be investigating, you said, the President of the United States. Joe Biden lied to this country, didn't he, when he said he never discussed his foreign business dealings with his son?
Absolutely. We have produced pictures, we've produced emails, we've produced documents that show that not only did Joe Biden know very well what his son and brother were doing with respect to influence peddling, but he was also a part of it. We saw where Hunter Biden was requesting keys for office space for Joe Biden. There are several whistleblowers that have come to us and identified Joe Biden as the big guy, that he was supposed to get a 10% equity stake. That's a national security concern. The more that comes out about Joe Biden and the influence peddling, there's a pattern here with communist China, with Ukraine, with Russia, with our adversaries across the world. And you look at the bad decisions that Joe Biden makes and this White House makes every day that has a detrimental effect on every American, you wonder, is this president compromised? We deserve to have answers to the extent of the Biden family influence peddling and what exactly Joe Biden not only knew, but what exactly he benefited from.
The $1.5 billion deal with China, we just learned in recent days, now that we know about the issue with Joe Biden and top secret classified information, $54 million went to that university. That's something to look into.
Think about how many more universities they're doing that. Think about what they're trying to influence across our nation. That's why the Select Committee in China is so important.
Yeah.
We got to stop allowing them to steal from us, to take our intellectual property, to try to buy their way through America.
Do you have any doubt that Joe Biden knew that the family was making money? Like, for example, I never understood why the media and Democrats didn't care about Joe Biden literally saying you're not getting $1 billion of taxpayer money until you fire a prosecutor in Ukraine who's investigating your son, who goes on Good Morning America and admits he had no experience at all in energy, gas, oil, or Ukraine. Why is he being paid millions? And son of a bee, they fired the guy.
They did.
Is that influence peddling?
Absolutely, and we're waiting on a FOIA request from Stephen Miller, a guest on your show frequently, that's working to try to get more transparency with what really went on with Ukraine. Now we find out the documents that Joe Biden had that were classified, some of them pertain to Ukraine. I mean, there's so many questions here. And normally, the mainstream media served as a check and balance on corruption in the past with past presidents. But they've turned a blind eye to Joe Biden, and they've defended Joe Biden, just like they're doing with these classified documents that he has today. We're not going to let up the people in this room. Many are on the Oversight Committee. Every committee is going to play a role in oversight. We're going to get answers that the American people deserve.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. We're going to follow it every step of the way, because I think the American public is in for a shock. I don't think they're fully aware, because we've done a deep dive into a lot of this. I want to get those banking records. I think they will be very revealing.
But this is the difference. This isn't political.
Yeah.
This is not based where we're predetermining
Not
who could be
national
on the
security.
No. Wouldn't you want to know? And did he lie to the American public? How much is China paying in this process? Why did all those banks put a concern about all this? Why are they holding that up? Hundreds of documents that they know. I think we need to get to the bottom.
We're going to take a break. By the way, good to see you guys. Thank you. You'll be getting a lot of invitations on Hannity.